as you guys know, Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa on the Republican ticket, and the current mayor of New York, Eric Adams, are running up against our boy Zohran Kwame Mamdani. Now, Zohran Kwame Mamdani is, according to the New York Times Siena poll that just came out, basically beating everybody else on every single metric, every possible demographic by a landslide, or at worst, tied for the first in his weakest categories, which is older people. Okay? And what has Andrew Cuomo, who's supposed to be like the guy that is going to try and beat Zohran Mamdani after he lost in the primaries, what has he thought about doing as a line of attack? What has he thought about? Attacking Zohran Mamdani over, who's the current frontrunner? His connections to a popular Twitch streamer who has been supporting him from the initial stages of the primary. That connection to said popular Twitch streamer, me, has actually played a role in him beating Andrew Cuomo in the primary. Not like a super significant role, but somewhat of a role. So, not sure exactly why he thought this would be a fantastic own. Okay? But that's right. Andrew Cuomo has decided to play the association game with Zohran Mamdani. Who are those other people? Victims of Hasan Piker? I assume, I don't know anything about this press conference because I didn't see it. I only saw this originally, and it launched me into orbit. Okay, your tweet got age restricted. Which one? But I suspect it's like 9/11 first responders and their children or something. But in any case, it is pretty funny that America's most important city's mayoral race has gotten so completely out of control that they're basically trying to do like internet beef. That is where we're at. Lamont, I work in office with David Friedlander. Yeah, shouts out to David Friedlander, who apparently asked Andrew Cuomo at this presser, because he's the one who actually took the photo and sent it. But shouts out to David, who asked him about his horrible numbers. Because as soon as I saw this, I immediately sent this photo to a bunch of my friends and said, "This is fantastic." And then I also tweeted, "Great campaign, Mr. Cuomo," with this New York Times Siena poll that just came out. Zohran Mamdani leads by 22 points in a four-way general election. Mamdani is most trusted on affordability, housing, Israel-Palestine, and crime, taxes, dealing with the Trump administration, leads all racial groups, plus 4 out of the 5 boroughs. If the field holds, he wins. So while this is going on, and this is a horrible day to be Andrew Cuomo, horrible numbers coming out, what is he choosing to do? This. If this is your exit ramp, if this is what you think is going to, move your numbers, improve your numbers, if this is what's going to carry you across the finish line, you are delusional. Because 2 reasons, okay? 2 reasons. Number 1, nobody knows who I am, you fucking idiot. No one knows. I try to repeat this to like extremely online people all the time, people that come in here, and even members of my own community. I'm like, guys, for the most part, people know me as like, oh, that progressive guy, okay? That's it. If they know who I am, especially amongst like the normie crowd, they just kind of know me as the progressive guy, okay? And they have a rather positive association with me. Now, of course, there are a lot of negative associations with someone like myself, negative associations coming from incredibly Zionist groups. If you are super, super invested in Israel, then yeah, you're going to know who I am and you're going to have a negative opinion of me. If you are a dedicated Fox News watcher, you might have maybe seen who I am and you might not like who I am. But even then, it's not super relevant overall. And then, of course, last but not least, it's like the extremely online people, but they never go outside and they never vote. So it doesn't really matter. Now you'll be the 9/11 guy to these New Yorkers? No. And he is so desperately trying to farm this shit and trying to do this in a way, but here is the funniest thing. In order for this to, if this were to ever become a real problem, which it's not, right? All Zohran needs to do is say, I don't know him. And I did a podcast with him because he has a massive platform and it worked. And I don't know him and I don't like him. Okay, what now? You know what I mean? Oh no, all he needs to do is Jeremiah Wright my ass in the same way that Barack Obama did to Reverend Wright. Also, I do personally find it funny that this is another op that I have that is a fucking sex criminal. Oh my God. He was already asked about this during the primary, and he said he will go anywhere. Regular New Yorkers seeing a picture of Hasan. I don't even know who you are. Yeah. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine a regular ass New Yorker being like, wow, this guy sure sucks. Can't believe Zohran did an interview with him. Like, the reason why this is such a stupid line of attack is because either nobody knows who I am, and that's the overwhelming majority of normies, okay? Or the people that do know who I am overwhelmingly are on the younger side. They're already very pro Zohran. And part of the reason why they're pro Zohran is because they might have even seen Zohran and myself communicate on this fairly successful Twitch stream that we conducted early on in his campaign. So who is this for is the question I have. Like, I'm imagining a guy, okay, from one of these like demographics that Zohran is like really cleaning, right? Like a 34-year-old who's like, I really love fast and free buses. And I really think that it's cool that Zohran was saying like, I'm not going to go to Israel. I am the mayor of New York. Why would I go to Israel? I thought all that stuff was cool. But wait a minute. Am I seeing that right? He's hanging out with HasanAbi Piker? Well, that's it for me. Time to vote for Andrew Cuomo, I guess. Like, that's so stupid. And of course, he had been asked about this already by, once again, a Zionist group that was, hammering this early on in the primaries. And he said, I'll go anywhere. I'll talk to anybody. So ultimately, this is just red meat for my haters online who will be like, your association is a negative one with Zohran. It's like, well, I already associated with him and he won the fucking primaries. I did my job, okay? He was in a crowded field. He was in an incredibly crowded field. And myself and many others in our little sphere of influence recognized that he was a cut above. There were plenty of good candidates there as well. But my job is done. We already brought him into the primary. Okay. So from this point on, it's just not, you can't fucking be like, oh, your association is like hurting his reputation. It's like, no, he's good. Now, of course, the other side of this, yeah, too late, too little, too late. But the other side of the story that I think is of course interesting is that if we were to talk about associations, Andrew Cuomo is associated with the entirety of the Trump orbit, Trump himself, and also Benjamin fucking Netanyahu. Like, what are you talking about? There's no comparison. Oh, wow. This guy hung out with the Twitch streamer who said America's actions in the Middle East was what caused 9/11 to happen, okay? In 2019. Wow. You got him. Ultimately, that is nothing in comparison to Andrew Cuomo's long list of genuinely vile associates, especially from the perspective of New Yorkers. But yeah, Can't Never Die says, they're calling this the greatest campaign ever devised. Campaigns like this have a base of entirely 60-plus-year-olds who will see this and immediately move on. The average Cuomo voter has never heard of any leftist online personalities law. Exactly. All this does, for me at least, is I guess increase my visibility. It doesn't do anything to Zohran in general. And if it ever even got to like a serious point for them, all he could do is just say, I don't know him. I'm not associated with him in any way. And that's it. That's all he has to do in that situation. Now, I don't think he should do that. Once again, it's in a way, it's not that different from, in a way, it's not that different from the whole like not backing down from the globalize the intifada message, right? Because like his original assessment there was correct. Like this only becomes like, I mean, it'll never become like a real problem, but this only becomes even like a blip on anyone's radar if you make it. Because this is not a real thing. This is not a real point of contention. It's not a real point of contention at all. You're killing it. You're cooking, and it's your association with a massively popular streamer that is massively popular by the standards of like a lot of Zohran's base of support is not going to be a negative for you. Okay. Hey, you know that massively popular streamer who's beloved by millions and resonates with Gen Z? He supports the other guy. Yeah, this association is not a negative one. It's a positive one. And I'm not just saying that because I'm me. I think it only becomes an issue if you make it an issue. But he might. Who knows? I mean, he has appeared squeamish at times when it comes to like Israel related things every now and then because he thinks that will stop people from yelling at him. Hasan, I think it's a big issue for Zohran. It's not. The reason why it's not a big issue is because most people don't know who the fuck I am. And the ones that do are already like either door knocking for Zohran or have voted for Zohran. Like, it comes down to this. And I mean this. I'm not like, I am not glazing my own self when I say this. I think I am a more popular figure in New York City than Andrew Cuomo. This is not to say that I am more known than Andrew Cuomo. Of course, Andrew Cuomo is a much more visible, much more known person. But he's also a hated person in New York City. I am not. Do I have my share of haters in New York City? Certainly. But the number of people who like me is far larger than the number of people who hate me in New York City specifically. And I would say that it is a reversal for Andrew Cuomo. A lot more people know who he is, and a lot more people don't like him than do like him. And I would go so far as to say that if we went band for band in terms of how many people would be willing to go out to a rally or a meetup that I set up, me versus Andrew Cuomo, there would be more people showing up to mine than his. Does Zohran know about you and what Cuomo is mentioning? What do you mean? You versus Cuomo money spread? Hasan self-glazing, but I like it. How is it in LA compared to New York City? I love New York City. He was endorsed by Wendy Turigi, who became an EMT after the attack. She added his opponent Zohran Mamdani, proudly associated with Hasan Piker. Man who said America deserved 9/11. To families like mine, that's not politics, that's life and death. His association with Hasan Piker qualifies him to serve at any role for New York City, let alone as important as mayor. I'm calling on Zohran Mamdani to disavow Hasan Piker and his hateful words. Like the whole like he needs to disavow Hasan Piker. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? This is yet again another instance where you going to let the reactionary group, the reactionary entity in this race, Andrew Cuomo, backed by Donald Trump, lead the conversation? Okay, disavow this person, condemn that person. If you get into this game, okay, if you get into this game, it's not going to be good for you because you're constantly going to have another person that comes after you. That's why I have said before, the whole like sister soldier shit or the Reverend Right shit, like that stuff in the past didn't work either, but Democrats love doing that shit. This is a new meta. This is a new dawn. It is a new day. Okay? Also, I like the implication that I did 9/11. Like these people make it seem as though I was familiar with the matters, and like the subtle implication is like I participated in 9/11, like I did it. Okay. In 2017, Cuomo stood side by side with Sal to sign legislation granting unlimited sick leave. two responders battling illnesses from the service. That day, they rode motorcycles together to honor 9/11 first responders, symbolize resilience, solidarity, and progress. I know firsthand what kind of leader Andrew Cuomo is. Wendy Ricci said, as governor, he fought to secure benefits to 9/11 families. He treated our community with the respect and dignity we deserve. That's the kind of leadership New York City needs again. She added his opponent, Zohran Mamdani, proudly associated with Hasan Piker, a man who said America deserved 9/11. To families like mine, that's not politics, that's life and death. It's like, it's crazy to just be like, yeah, dude, you love 9/11. You might have done 9/11, and it's really fucked up that Zohran is associated with this guy who like is responsible for 9/11. It's also pure racism, through and through. But it's an act of desperation overall. And once again, in this act of desperation, it only has as much motion as the popular candidate in the field, Zohran Mamdani, gives it. It only has as much motion as Zohran Mamdani breathes life into it. Cuomo keeps his remarks to benefits for 9/11 victims, saying Mamdani's inexperience is dangerous in the case of terrorist attacks. Families are still living with the pain, and families will still endure the loss from 9/11. Should Zohran respond? And if so, how do you think? Look, I have no, way of figuring out exactly how he's going to communicate through this. But the best possible thing would be to just never even respond to this at all. And if you ever were forced to respond to this in like a moment where someone, they sent like like a provocateur or something, then they caught you when you were doing like a presser or some shit, the best possible response would be like, what are you talking about? Like, this is a popular media figure. He's a leftist. Of course, I'm going to go on a stream. And of course, instead of like, if we're going to talk about the association game, Andrew Cuomo is associated with Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump. So he's both bad on domestic affairs and bad on foreign policy as well. My association with a progressive Twitch streamer using Fox News lines of attack is so insane. But yet another clear-cut example to Andrew Cuomo is a right-winger and running to spoil this race. That's it. I want to improve people's lives in New York. This kind of silly back and forth is a simple distraction for a campaign that is failing, for a campaign that is failing for good reason, because they do not care about New Yorkers, and New Yorkers have already responded by voting for me, Zohran Kwame Mamdani, over Andrew Cuomo. Excited to see all the worst humans online start backing Andrew Cuomo because of this. Yeah, it's a unique moment. Like I said, at worst, this would turn into like Hasan's association with politicians is bad when it's not, but they will try online in the little world that we live in, where no normie actually broaches that side of the internet. It'll make it seem as though my association with Zohran Mamdani was a boon, was a burden, was a negative and not like a positive one, and that's it. And they'll just recirculate that bullshit back and forth over and over again with the hopes that, Zohran will disavow or condemn or something. And I don't, not Boone, sorry, Bane. I don't think it's necessarily, like I said, even if Zohran were to come out and be like, yeah, I don't know this guy, fuck him. I disavow Hasan Piker. It doesn't bother me. Beyond the fact that I think it's bad instincts. That's it. It's not dissimilar to me being critical of him backing away from like the globalize the intifada message. It's showing me that it's very like he's more susceptible to the squishy liberal optics, maybe a little too much, and in a way that actually doesn't translate to strength and leadership. It's just not a good, we don't live in that era. We don't live in that age. We don't live in that era. So you're literally walking around New York like a month ago and everyone was so excited to see you. No, exactly. Like, come on, dude. It's in the same line of attack. I met and hired a Gen Z line cook who's one of my sous chefs now. And when we met, I tried to tell him I watch you, and he goes, you want me to watch Hasan Piker? 3 years later, I mentioned him again. I get my news now. He says, oh, well, that's for the best. If you want to know what's actually going on. Oh, how the turns have tabled. Mohammed El Kurd had a good post on this. Yeah, I saw. Do you guys understand what I mean, by the way? Because it's like, it doesn't, association with someone like myself, a fucking niche online left figure, is either seen as like a major positive for those in the know. Like, a lot more people have a positive association with that than a negative one. Or they just like are completely oblivious and think like, why the fuck is this a big deal? Like, what are you talking about? Like, they're trying to make this a big deal. But the problem is, you must be extremely online to think that this would be a big deal association. Do you see what I mean? I don't have enough motion and broad mainstream disapproval for this to actually stick. And for the most part, my mainstream appeal is positive, regardless of how much the ADL comes after me and attacks me with regular frequency. So yeah, we're gonna look at Zohran's numbers in a second. But have we blasted off already? Yes, I did. Where was it? There was a Mohammed El Kurd post that I was going to cover as well. Hold on. Yeah, Dave Weigel joke says, tough on Hasan the Hun, tough on the causes of Hasan the Hun. But yeah, Mohammed El Kurd said, I've told you this on the phone, in person, and I will reiterate it publicly. What you think of the phrase globalize the intifada, our beautiful uprising against occupation, is irrelevant. What matters is that it's a slogan adopted by a movement that is partly responsible for your success, and you mustn't throw them under the bus. We are facing unprecedented levels of state repression and institutional censorship. Both our political organizing and speech are criminalized, and we are confronting genocide for God's sake. That you choose to continue elevating Jewish feelings over the lives of Palestinians over the fact of genocide is nothing more than punching down on those who have helped elevate you. And not to mention, it is bad electoral strategy considering you are quite literally winning and need not to bow down to Zionist pressure 100%. Like, I'm endorsing Mohammed's take here 100%. He's right. The tens of thousands of volunteers who have canvassed for you in the scorching hot sun, they are not to be taken for granted. Their support isn't unconditional. Remember that. If I could vote, I would vote for Mamdani solely because of his economic agenda, as I care about the poor and working class New Yorkers. No other reason. I have no doubt that those anti-Palestinian dog whistles will only grow louder if not challenged. I sincerely hope I am wrong. I said this already. I don't think this is a betrayal. I see this as I don't see this as like a major betrayal to the Palestinian cause or anything like that. I don't think he's like backing away, especially because he has spent so many years so visibly doing activism for Palestinians and for Palestine. And when you do that, especially at a time when there were far more severe consequences for it, like being pro-Palestine wasn't like a popular position until recently. Even though it was always the correct position, it was an unimaginably unpopular position. Okay, there's an entire wing of progressives in this country that are progressive except for Palestine, and not even just in this country, but in general in the Western world. There are people who have been incredibly progressive overall, with the exception of Israel. This is something that I know from all of my years of advocacy, and this is something that Zohran Mamdani knows as well. So, especially when he's winning on this issue, the fact that he would like ever back away from that and give any inch because he personally thinks this is going to improve his broad appeal is just wrong. And the instincts that he had of unconditionally supporting Palestinian emancipation was right. It showed earnesty. So this looks like kind of fake. I'll still support him regardless, and I'll still tell my audience to go and vote for him regardless, even if he were to say like, oh, fuck Hasan, I don't know him, I disavow him. And I'm sure he knows that already. But the thing that I worry about is that it shows me that it's like a bad instinct in general. It's like not a, it isn't, I know it's like sounds, obviously it looks personal because I'm now in the crosshairs of Andrew Cuomo, but I said this yesterday as well before this thing happened. And my assessment is still the same, which is I don't think he's like betraying what he believes, right? I don't think he's betraying what he believes at all. But it does feel as though he is miscalculating if he thinks that this kind of line of attack is actually a successful one that actually tarnishes his broad appeal. Okay? Also, Bernie AOC influence is stupid because Bernie's own team reached out when Bernie and Zohran were doing the Brooklyn thing, and they wanted me to come out. So the notion that like this is the Bernie AOC wing of the party, they still associate with me publicly. What the fuck are we talking about? Calm down. They understand that I seemingly have some kind of appeal in the left flank of the party that they also think is important enough to talk to. Anyway, Zana says, if you're wondering why they're still asking him about this months later, it's in part because every time he's asked this, his position becomes more palatable for the Democratic Party leadership and donors. They will continue asking this question until he's completely acquiesced into a boilerplate progressive Dem a la AOC. I don't think it's going to happen. And I think it's actually more nefarious than that. I think the reason why they're asking them this question is so... The reason why they're asking them this question is so that they can actually cook him and make him look inconsistent and hit him harder. Because the moment that you actually acquiesce, the moment that you actually concede on this ridiculous notion, this notion that is not truthful at all, because his original statement was like, it's an Arabic word. It's one that literally the Holocaust Memorial Foundation like uses when talking about the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. It's just the Arabic word for uprising. That was correct. That was the correct statement initially. And he has backed away from that, saying like, oh man, I don't know. I just don't know. It's very hurtful. It reminds people of bus bombings, like as though saying globalize the intifada means like you're going to do, Muslims are going to do bus bombings in New York City. Like that's fucking bullshit. That is a racist fantasy. And you do not have to concede on that at all. Okay, you do not have to concede on that at all. And why must you not concede on that? Not because you want to be like a moral beacon, okay? That's not even what I'm saying. The cynical, calculated assessment here, okay? The cynical, calculated assessment here is that once you concede on that, they're just going to they're going to use that as an opportunity to legitimize their line of attack. See, he recognizes it too. So we weren't wrong. We were right. That intifada is a violent language. And at a time when there's unprecedented amounts of attack on free speech, specifically from the perspective of being anti-Israel, anti-genocide, anti-Zionist, conceding on this after your lack of concessions on this issue allowed you to win this incredibly crowded primary against a dynastic figure like Andrew Cuomo and many other even progressive figures that were fighting alongside you to win the Democratic Party's primary is bad. It's never going to stop at this. Once you give a fucking inch, they're going to take a mile. Okay? Chatters want drama between you and people you have professional relationship and have professional disagreements with. Insane levels of parasocial from chatters. Yeah, this is not the first time he has said this thing. I know he had basically unveiled that this was going to be his like soft concession to this standard, and I don't think it works. I don't think this is that big of a problem either way. It only becomes a big problem if this is all he is constantly seeking to address. Okay, any moment that you find yourself offering legitimacy to this angle of attack is a moment that you're failing, because it's a moment that you're not talking about your policies. It's not a moment where you're talking about, it's a moment where you're not talking about like why people trust you, why people find you to be earnest. Okay? That's it. Didn't you address and predict this in your interview with him? I mean, I might have brought this up at some point, but I don't remember. I don't recall. Maybe. Yeah, Zohran, who says he'll arrest Netanyahu, is 3 times more trusted by New Yorkers on Israel Palestine than Cuomo, who has volunteered to defend Netanyahu. New York City's message to Israel lobby is loud and clear. We are not stupid, and you have no more influence here. Exactly. It's just a weakness, and you can never show weakness, especially when you're winning. It just makes no sense. I think it would be more damaging for him to concede on, do you disavow Hassan Piker? Do you disavow, globalize the intifada? All this shit. That shows more weakness and becomes a point of contention for him than not addressing it at all and just moving on and being like, these are silly distractions. Let's talk about the issues that really matter. Like, these motherfuckers are making it seem like I did 9/11. It is a horrifyingly racist statement on its face. It's an insanely Islamophobic shit. It's an insanely Islamophobic thing to do. I'm Muslim. He's Muslim. They're saying 9/11. Remember 9/11? Remember 9/11? It's basically what Charlie Kirk was doing, but a little bit different, like a little bit more palatable, right? I think people need to cut him some slack because this guy's running for mayor, not president or governor. No, I'm cutting him all the slack in the world. I don't think you guys understand. Like this doesn't change my my opinion, but the only thing that I'm worried about, and this is far before the Andrew Cuomo stuff too. The only thing that I'm worried about is like it just shows bad instinct if you concede on stuff like this. I don't think he's like betraying the Palestinian cause or anything, or like used it as a way to farm clout or anything like that. In some respects, this in and of itself is no different than if he had conceded on the Israel question. Would you travel to Israel? Why won't you travel to Israel? Do you believe that Israel has a right to exist? Over and over again. What did he do in that situation? He said Israel has a right to exist as a democratic state that has equal rights and equal representation for all, which is not what Israel is. Okay, he perfectly took a framework that is so acceptable for liberals, and recalculated and answered it in that way. But that, instead of conceding and instead of like owning and legitimizing this like cynical line of attack, he just said fuck no. You know, he stood proudly on this issue. So anyway, but it is obviously like a coordinated campaign. Maybe Fox News will get in on it too a little bit, but like it's gross. It's gross the way that like Andrew Cuomo is just like farming 9/11 to be like, see, this guy may or may not have done 9/11. Andrew Cuomo standing next to a sign that says in big letters, America deserved 9/11 with no additional context other than the photo of a Twitch streamer that most regular New Yorkers have never heard of. What a fantastically run campaign. Exactly. It's so stupid. Like you do this only if you like want to attack me, not even Zohran. Because the counter here is so easy for Zohran to just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. This feels like an idea that his Groyper social media manager came up with. Yeah. It's an act of desperation. 99% of retweets have just been laughing at this. I know, but that doesn't matter because Zohran's assessment might be a little bit different. What is this? Why is Hasan making this a big deal? It's a nothing burger. It's only a big deal if you make it a deal, Hasan. Then he tries to make it a big deal. I'm just explaining something that I have been personally brought up in. I think it's valid. No? You don't think so? Am I being crazy? And I'm, as always, not just talking about myself in this process, but also drawing on a broader point. The broader point being that, one, I'm utterly irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. And two, if he were to lean into this line of attack, it just once again shows bad instincts. And it could become a problem for him in this race. Because he's going to keep getting gummed up in the works. They're just going to keep hitting him over and over again. This is what originally, this is what was brought up in the mayoral town hall from a Zionist group that asked him about this already. Because this is like something that the ADL has been trying to fucking farm off of Zohran over and over again.
In the last 24 hours, that social media, comments, activist slogans actually can lead to what happened last night in Washington, D.C. We've reported at Jewish Insider that you've gone on the show of a podcaster, a popular podcaster on the left named Hasan Piker, who has justified Hamas's October 7th, 2023 terror attacks. Said it didn't matter if rapes occurred on October 7th on his show on a number of occasions. You've been on his show. Do you regret going on that show? And especially in the light of last night's murder of the Israeli embassy staff, is that type of rhetoric responsible in our public discourse?
I think that one of the lessons I learned from the Democratic Party's failures in this previous election is an inability to use every single platform and avenue to communicate with as many people as possible.
Yeah, the framing is also crazy racist, making it seem like I'm responsible for the fucking DC shooting once again. Like, this is double fuck for someone like Zohran because he's not a white boy either, you know? I mean, they're lying about my takes. That's fine. They always do. What are you going to do? Who cares, right? But this also, like any attack in this vein that is directed in my direction can absolutely be implemented against Zohran in the exact same way because of our similar backgrounds. That's it. So it's a even more unique position for someone like him because once again, he's brown, he's Muslim, he's even more visibly Muslim than I am, right? And he's a socialist. And also, he has spent a very long time doing very visible pro-Palestinian advocacy. So any kind of line of attack that bastardizes my assessment, my commentary, my analysis can very easily be directed at him as well. So he's in a really unique position here, in a really unique predicament where saying like, oh, this guy is bad and wrong, they can just as easily turn around and say, okay, well, here's something you've said. Here's a group that you've started, Students for Justice for Palestine and Bowdoin College. And this is the exact line of attack that won't really actually harm his chances, as it didn't in the primary. It's not going to in the general either, unless this is the only thing that he is constantly tasked with responding. Stop giving them ideas. No, I'm not. I'm not giving them ideas. I'm telling them exactly how this works because I saw it happen with Corbyn. Okay?
Desire to only speak to journalists and podcast hosts with whom you have agreement on every single issue. And I think that much of that conversation pertained to discussions around whether or not people should appear on Joe Rogan. But I think it is part of a broader conversation around politics as a manner of purity, when I think politics should also be an avenue to engage as many people as possible. And so to me, I do not have regrets of speaking to any interviewer, to any journalist, to any podcaster, because ultimately...
Yeah, Corbyn conceded early that there was anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, and it was all that he was asked about for 5 years. He was cooked, which is ironic because the Tories on the other side, for those 5 years, were doing unimaginably anti-Semitic shit, like almost directly aligning with the EDL, like all these other groups. They put a statue of Nancy Astor up to celebrate her. She literally said Hitler was right about the Jews. Like a person who said that was venerated, was celebrated by the Tory government at the time when everybody was like, Jeremy Corbyn's a real anti-Semite. Like we've seen this already. We've fucking seen how this works. And like taking on the oppositional framing in this situation and conceding to their framing unironically makes this a larger issue for progressives, for the left, for Democrats as well. This is the same exact technique that right-wing groups apply with regular frequency. They're doing this. This is a right-wing group, it's a Zionist group, and they're doing this as Zohran right here. And he, dances around it and does a decent job. I don't expect him to just be like, Hasan is my favorite content creator. I love him. I am defending him unconditionally. That's not my expectation at all, right? And it's not even about loyalty or anything like that. I don't give a shit. Like I said, put the fucking policy in the bag, okay? Put the policy in the bag, little bro. That's all I care about. You're a politician, okay? You're elected. I want you to be a good mayor. I want you to actually help the people of New York. I want you to help the working class of New York. I want you to make things more affordable. I want you to have a more robust public transit. That's what I care about.
My message is consistent in all of those mediums. And it's a message that I want to have reach as many people as possible while making clear what my values are and my statements are.
Given that comment, do you have a responsibility then when you go on a show like that to say, Hasan, your comments about Hamas, your comments about October 7th are unacceptable. I reject them. And if so, why haven't you said that to his face and on his show?
I think that my words speak for themselves. In the context of that, I think about 3.5-hour interview, I made very clear where I stood. And I think this is something that I have sought to embody throughout my career as a consistency. And I think that my actions, my words, even in that interview, spoke for themselves. But it is all.
But this was in the primary. Those questions are fucking ridiculous anyway. The Zionist advocacy groups have one speed. They try to do this in France as well to Mélenchon's party. Okay, they try to do this in France and Mélenchon's party, and their response was so clear. It was the best possible response I've ever heard from any politician. Okay? Zohran pivoted here. In France, the dude straight up said, you guys literally say everyone's a fucking anti-Semite if they are anti-genocide. Are you anti-genocide? He redirected it back. He said, There's a genocide going on. Are you anti-genocide? Why do you never ask people if they're anti-genocide or not? You say this to anyone that has ever said anything mean about Israel. That's the perfect response. You say this to everybody. And the reason why that's a perfect response is because not only is it true, okay? Not only is it true, but also a lot of other people, if you're running in a popularity contest like a fucking election, you want to say shit that's going to come across as popular, okay? And virtually everyone, regardless of their position, unless they're like super duper pro-Israel, and they're never going to fucking vote for Zohran anyway if they are super duper pro-Israel, has felt this. They've seen this. Even if they themselves are not visible public figures, they have seen, they've sensed the attitude coming from mainstream outlets, coming from institutions where it's like, don't say anything about Israel. Don't say it. You see the dead children? Don't say a fucking goddamn thing, or else we'll say you're anti-Semitic. We'll ruin your fucking life. And that has gotten so out of hand that the average person is aware of this attitude. Okay?
Always helpful to hear feedback as to what I have said, how I have engaged, and to always understand what it could look like in the future.
Has what happened?
Would you consider being a campaign manager? Someone asked. No, dude. Why the fuck would I do that? I give it out for free. Okay. Nothing in my advocacy is paywalled. It's fucking free. Okay. That's why the Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. There's no ads. And you know, it's free ball. There is no reason for me to, in any way, shape, or form, paywall my takes. Why does your advice not penetrate to people like him and AOC when it comes to this sort of thing? Because the more you are surrounded by people in DC, or the more you're surrounded by establishment Democrats, I feel as though the more you hear from them as opposed to people like myself. Because like Zohran, when Zohran was running, he was surrounded by activists, advocates. His entire team is people who have a similar mindset to someone like myself. But now that he is like more tapped in with the Democratic establishment, because he's like trying to become, I mean, he wants the endorsements from all the Democrats and he wants to win the mayoral race. He has more feedback, less feedback from people like myself, and more feedback from people in DC. And their attitude is a lot more careful. Their attitude is a lot more calculated. But the thing is, Zohran Mamdani's earnesty on this issue, on an unimaginably popular issue in the base, is what allowed him to cut away from the rest of the politicians on that crowded field in the primary. Mélenchon's answer on the Dig podcast on being smeared as anti-Semitic as a way to delegitimize Muslims and Palestine solidarity. Here's what Mélenchon said. Jean-Luc Mélenchon said, at the same time, all these attacks are an opportunity for mass popular education, provided we never back down. That is to say, once the battle is engaged, we do not give in. We do not back down. We do not apologize. We do not admit any mistakes, and we put up a fight. Those who don't like you won't like you anymore in the end. They may even hate you more, but those who didn't know you will understand that there is a problem. And those who are with you will gain confidence. They will say to themselves, they're not giving up. They're not going to betray me along the way. They're not abandoning their ideas along the way. For us on the left, regaining the trust of the people is the number one test. This is precisely my point. This was unfortunately a major failure for Jeremy Corbyn, who I love deeply. Okay. I think he's a fantastic person, but unfortunately, as a politician, he was too kind. He was too soft. And you can't be. You got to be a fighter. You cannot fold. Never engage on a faulty framework. Even if you concede on a minor point, they'll just pounce on you anyways. Exactly. How many times have we seen this? But now on to some, here, I'll do this last part. A hero 9/11 family on Tuesday slammed Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani for associating with vile left-wing influencers. Some Piker once said Americans are 9/11. How can you hang around with someone, blah, 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 blah. Mamdani doesn't deserve to be mayor, she said. Her husband, Sal Tortucci, 60, FDNY emergency medical technician who removed bodies and body parts from Ground Zero. to be sent to the morgue. Now suffer stage 4 neuroendocrine cancer. Added, I don't like Mamdani. The couple said they were endorsing Mamdani's rival, ex-governor Andrew Cuomo, in the November election, joining him in a press conference 2 days before the 24th anniversary of the terrorist attacks that killed 2,977 people. Piker once controversially said, America deserved 9/11. I'm saying it. We fucking totally brought it on ourselves, dude. Holy shit, we did. We fucking did. He also said it doesn't matter if rapes happened to women during Hamas' October 7th attack on Israel. Wendy Tertrucci said Mamdani palling around with Pikers beyond the pale. She also pointed out Mamdani once voiced his love for the 5 leaders of a notorious nonprofit convicted of funneling more than $12 million to the terror group Hamas. You see, it's more. It's not just like his association with Hasan, okay? It's in the same vein of attack. So if you fucking actually turn around and concede on this framework, they're going to pounce on all this other shit too. You should not be fearful of this. You shouldn't. It's ridiculous. The starting point here, the starting point for this cynical line of attack is not out of like some sincere belief, unless you legitimately think that like myself or Zohran had anything to do with fucking 9/11, and you are actively misunderstanding what I'm saying there. I get it. I do think it's kind of weird that they love clip farming you. I mean, it's fine. It happens. It happens when you are a public figure. It is what it is. It's the name of the game here. Okay. It's a shitty situation, but you know, we're adults. Sal Tertrucci and Cuomo also rode motorcycles together to honor 9/11 first responders. I know what firsthand Andrew Cuomo is. Like, this is just a way to try and fucking make Andrew Cuomo look good. I don't think it's going to work. I mean, this is incredibly stupid. Once again, the silver lining here is that they are desperate. And the reason why they're desperate is because of this. Mamdani holds huge lead in mayor's race, Times Siena poll finds. Okay? Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee in the New York City mayoral race, is way ahead of his 3 rivals, but his lead would diminish considerably if the field shrank to a 2-man race. He's at 46%. If the 2025 New York City mayoral election were held today, who would you vote for? And as far as I understand, it's over anyway. The ballots are already being printed. So these guys are going to be on the ballots regardless. Okay? None of them dropped out. None of them dropped out. Which means that there is no way to ensure that every single person and every single vote is behind one of these guys. Okay? There is no way that they can actually, now that the ballots have been printed, even if there were endorsements that came, like even if Eric Adams dropped out and then endorsed Andrew Cuomo, which is not going to happen, right? Even if Eric Adams dropped out and endorsed Andrew Cuomo, which is not likely to happen, he's called Andrew Cuomo a snake and a liar. Even if Curtis Sliwa dropped out, which I think is the less likely option out of all of this, and endorsed Andrew Cuomo, their names are still on the ballot. And therefore, there are going to be a lot of people who vote for them regardless. Do you understand? There's going to be a lot of people who just simply go, yeah, I didn't hear it. I still voted for my guy. Now, ultimately, this is the reason why I think like these guys are incredibly desperate, and they'll get even more racist as the election nears. I suspect that they'll do a big push around 9/11 as well to try to like associate Zohran Mamdani with 9/11 because they're just leaning on Islamophobia. That's it. Zohran is Muslim. They're trying to fucking be like, they're trying to be like, yeah, Muslim guy kind of did 9/11. His people did 9/11. Remember 9/11? His people did it. Do you want an insider to do 9/11 again? Like that type of shit. That's basically what they're doing. They're just like hitting the racism line. New York about to be Mumbai 2.0. It isn't a phobia if it's rational. You think, well, first of all, you're in the chat of a Muslim dude. That's number one. But number two, you think Zohran Mamdani is going to do 9/11. You think that's a rational phobia. But Islam is responsible for many extremists. Brother, this is the worst time to say that. Okay? First of all, that's just transparent racism. But it is pretty funny to say that at a time of like unprecedented Christian nationalism growing in this country, okay, fascist Christian nationalism growing in this country, and also Israel falsely is conflating every single action that they're doing at the behest of this Zionist project, which is a Jewish supremacist ideology that is exterminationist in principle. They're saying that they're doing this for Judaism. So like right now, in terms of like the Abrahamic religions, the only reason why you feel like the Muslims and Islam is responsible for many extremists is because like this is the worst possible time. If you were saying this in like 2001, it would still be ridiculous, but at least like, you know, you could have a little bit of broad appeal for this kind of sentiment. 2025, 20 plus years after the failure of war on terror, not a good time to just like deliver this racist sentiment, because it's one of those things that just like slams you directly in the fucking face, that is just not real at all. Not that it changes the dynamic for you in any way, because you are not operating off of any sort of like rational fear, even though you think you are rationalizing this fear, but it's incredibly stupid. Incredibly stupid to say right now as opposed to any other time. The poll found that 46% of likely voters currently plan to choose Mr. Mamdani, the Democratic nominee, in a four-way race. By comparison, 24% of likely voters in New York City said they would support former Governor Andrew M. Cuomo, who is running as an independent after losing June's Democratic primary. 15% were back the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, and 9% favored Mayor Eric Adams, the scandal-scarred incumbent who is running on an independent line. The survey captured the state of the race in early September at a moment of unusual flux. The day after polling began, the New York Times reported that President Trump and powerful figures in New York City were endeavoring to create a one-on-one contest between Mr. Cuomo, 67, and Mr. Mamdani, a 33-year-old state assemblyman and Democratic socialist. The extraordinary effort has included negotiations about Mr. Adams potentially suspending his campaign and accepting a nomination. This part is really funny. To be ambassador to Saudi Arabia. Presidential advisors have also discussed strategies to try to push Mr. Sliwa out of the race. The Times Siena poll underscored the potential impact of shrinking the field. Doing so, it suggested could meaningfully erode Mr. Mamdani's lead, but only if Mr. Adams and Mr. Sliwa, who have vowed to keep running, suspended their campaigns. Yeah, you miscalculated. I hate Cuomo more than I love corruption. Yeah, that is funny. That is literally what happened. They just thought that they could squeeze him out by giving him like a sweet deal, because they're like, you love deals. You love doing corruption. Here, we'll let you do some corruption. That's your favorite, no? Come on. Come on, let's get you out of there. They should have suggested making him the ambassador to Turkey, and maybe then he would have been down, I think. You know, they fucked up. Anyway, in a hypothetical head-to-head matchup, voters who initially supported Mr. Adams and Mr. Sliwa broke heavily towards Mr. Cuomo, a moderate Democrat. The survey suggested that would lead to an extremely tight race, with 48% supporting Mr. Mamdani and 44% supporting Mr. Cuomo. But if Mr. Adams dropped out and Mr. Sliwa stayed in the race, Mr. Mamdani would likely still hold a comfortable lead, given Mr. Adams' relatively low level of support. With just under 2 months to go until Election Day, the race has already been one of the most tumultuous New York City has seen in decades. It has included short-lived corruption charges against Mr. Adams, a comeback attempt by Mr. Cuomo 4 years after he resigned as governor in scandal, and the unexpected rise of Mr. Mamdani. The Times Siena survey is among a handful of independent polls in the race in recent weeks and showed a somewhat larger lead for Mr. Mamdani than others tracked by the Times. The new poll suggests that Mr. Mamdani's success so far is rooted in two factors. This is huge. Voters' personal regard for him and their sense that he is best positioned to address the two top electoral issues, affordability and housing costs. Oh my God, this is so shocking. Who could have thought that if you just listen to the people's demands, the people's wishes, the people's points of pain, and chose to address them, that they would respond positively to your candidacy? Who could have foreseen this? Oh my God. So shocking. No, it's the voting base that is out of touch. Exactly. They simply don't understand the dangers that Mamdani presents. If only we could do a couple more attack ads on him, then they would know. Okay? Then they would know how dangerous it is. Around 60% of likely voters said Mr. Mamdani was inspirational, had good character, and cared about people like them. He's the only candidate viewed positively by a majority of voters, despite months of attacks against him, because those attacks are failing, because those attacks are fucking stupid. Those attacks against Zohran Mamdani revolve around shit that people actually want. They say his campaign promises are impossible. They will ruin the economy. People go, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? The economy for me, personally, is already ruined. It's tattered. I can't afford shit. They say Zohran Mamdani hates Israel. He hates Israel. He hates Israel. People go, what the fuck? I hate Israel. What do you mean? And even attacks that comprise, like, they say he's hates Jews, right? The Zohran Mamdani hates Jews. Like, people understand that the reason why they're saying that about Zohran Mamdani is not because he actually hates Jews and is anti-Semitic. People understand it. It's because he's anti-Israel, and everyone else is anti-Israel as well, seemingly. So of course, most people have at least encountered. Most people have, at the very least, encountered online or on TV the exact same thing that I'm talking about. Someone who comes out and says, yeah, fuck Israel. What they're doing is terrible. It must be, we must stop it. We must put an end to this violence. And immediately they get pounced on and everybody goes, oh, you must hate Jews. You must hate Jews. You want to kill all Jews. And like, and people go, no, I don't want that. What the fuck are you talking about? So they've already experienced this, even if they themselves have not actually like been public about their own personal positions. They already have felt the environment of insecurity due to the endless sea of counter narratives and attacks in this cynical direction. So when they try to fucking hit him on that stuff, when they try to hit him on this shit, people understand exactly where this is coming from. And Mr. Mamdani has an edge on all racial groups, leading Mr. Cuomo narrowly among black voters. Mr. Adams, the city's second black mayor, trails in third, and by a larger margin among Hispanic voters. Overall, voters said they trusted Mr. Mamdani over Mr. Cuomo 49% to 23% when it comes to handling the city's daunting affordability challenge, with the other candidates lagging behind. Mr. Mamdani's proposal to freeze rent increases on rent-stabilized units wins particularly strong public support. Nearly 70% of voters, including majorities of Cuomo and Adams supporters, favor the policy. How'd that happen? How the fuck that happened? They've been attacking him on that line as well. They keep saying, oh, this is silly. This is ridiculous. Good things are not possible. Vote for me instead of Mamdani. Good things are not possible. He's a monster. He wants you to pay less for your rent. Think about the poor landlords. He's just got slick slogans. And it's like people go, no, man, I don't want you to tell me that it's impossible for my rent to be cheaper. What the fuck is wrong with you? That is usually the response from people who go, no, I heard him say he wants to fucking freeze the rents, and I love that. Increasing taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers, as Mr. Mamdani has proposed, is also widely popular, the poll found. Wow. Faith Dulaurier, 24, teacher from Flushing, Queens, said Mr. Mamdani's focus on affordability and his frequent appearances around the city had won her over, even though she's not registered with the party. I want to see something new, different, actually active change, she said. By a large margin, likely voters also said Mr. Mamdani was a candidate who had best addressed the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. 43% favored his position compared to 16% for Mr. Cuomo. Only 16% support for Andrew Cuomo's I'm going to take some time out to be Benjamin Netanyahu's personal lawyer for the International Criminal Court case. Wow. Mr. Mamdani has been among the most outspoken proponents of Palestinian rights and a longtime critic of Israel, describing its war efforts in Gaza as genocide. Mr. Cuomo is a staunch ally of Israel and has volunteered to defend its leader, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, from war crime accusations. Still, the poll registered potential vulnerabilities for the frontrunner, too. Voters have doubts about whether Mr. Mamdani, a three-term state lawmaker with a sparse resume, can deliver on his ambitious campaign plans. Roughly two-thirds of likely voters, including more than half of Mamdani's own supporters, said they do not expect him to achieve everything he has promised. Some 57% of likely voters have also said New York City should not follow through on Mr. Mamdani's plan to make buses free for everyone, even as a majority of New Yorkers support the proposal in theory. And they were divided over his affiliation with the Democratic Socialists of America. Leftist group, about 37% of likely voters said that having a Democratic Socialist mayor would be a good thing for the city, compared to the 32% who said it would be a bad thing, and 26% who called it neither good nor bad. Wow. So even his association with the DSA is either irrelevant or positive. Much larger number, a larger number thinks it's a positive association. Who could have fucking seen that? Despite Mr. Cuomo's primary loss, the survey suggested that he had more room to increase his support before Election Day than Mr. Adams or Mr. Sliwa. Now, let me tell you something. And this part is also important. I'm willing to bet that right now in New York and in many other places around the country, an association with establishment Democrats looks worse than an association with the Democratic Socialists of America. The DSA has a higher approval rating in New York and perhaps even many other parts of the country if they were to be able to operate with the same level of intensity as they do in New York City. They would be infinitely more popular than the Democratic Party, which is, of course, not that significant overall. It's like saying, yeah, people prefer a ham sandwich over shit from a butt, okay? Because the Democrats, broadly, on the national scale, are seen as shit from a butt, okay? A shit sandwich. That's it. That's what the fuck people think of the Democrats. We know that already. Excuse you? No, I will not excuse myself. The Democrats look like shit. They smell like shit. Nobody wants to be fucking associated with them. So the likes of Zohran Mamdani and many other seemingly radical candidates that are actually trying to implement modest social democratic reforms are unironically trying to save this fucking country. This is something that I keep repeating over and over again, and people get so goddamn mad, so much in their fucking fifis. Democrats are unpopular. The Republicans are unpopular too, but Democrats are also devastatingly unpopular. These guys, people like Zohran Mamdani, are exactly the type of people that they should be like grabbing onto and then trying to implement their fucking policies, try to identify why they're popular, and then repackage their dumbass campaigns in a similar vein to say like, oh yeah, we're radical too, we're socialist too, please. It's a different kind of Democrat. We're a different kind of Democrat. You know, one that is a real fighter. That's what they should be doing. The former governor has taken a far more aggressive approach in recent weeks to try to convince voters that Mr. Mamdani is too inexperienced and too ideologically left-leaning to lead a global financial capital. Mr. Cuomo, who spends a decade leading the state, receives high marks on his ability to govern. Roughly 57% of likely voters said the phrase would be an effective mayor described him well. Rodrigo Tobar, 64 of Queens, said he planned to support Mr. Sliwa, but was open to voting for Mr. Cuomo because of his experience. I like Sliwa because he's on the side of Trump, and I like anyone on the side of Trump, said Mr. Tobar, who works at Elmhurst Hospital. But Cuomo did a great job as governor. I think he'd be a good mayor. Roughly 2/3 of voters support a proposal by Mr. Cuomo to limit who can lease the city's nearly 1 million rent-stabilized apartments to those who would be spending at least 30% of their income on rent. Mr. Cuomo named the plan after Mr. Mamdani draw attention to his rivals living in a rent-stabilized unit despite his six-figure state salary. Mr. Cuomo's plan to hire 5,000 more police officers is also popular and has support from many of Mr. Mamdani's backers. But there are signs that the key lines of attack by Mr. Cuomo are not working. He has spent months criticizing Mr. Mamdani for his past support for defunding the police department, a position the Assemblyman has since reversed, and has argued that his rival would be ill-equipped to go toe-to-toe with Mr. Trump. Yeah, except this this line of attack is, of course, the funniest one to direct at Zohran Mamdani, because Donald Trump is clearly antagonistic to Zohran Mamdani, and Donald Trump is clearly interested in making Andrew Cuomo the mayor of New York. Christian extremists never flew planes in the buildings. Don't ever compare them to Islam. I hate Christians, by the way. Wait, what? Yes, Christian extremists never flew planes into buildings. Instead, they just leveled entire countries. What the fuck are you talking about, you dumb piece of shit? What are you talking about? George W. Bush said God told him to invade Afghanistan and Iraq. Okay? There were generals in George W. Bush's military at the time that were like saying we're going to dip our bullets in pig's blood to kill all the Muslims. But of course, no one understands that as a Christian crusade, because it's not. Christianity is just an association that you slap on to any sort of fucking movement so you can galvanize the public in that direction. God damn it. Why do so many fucking r/atheist dipshits turn into just like major Islamophobes? It's like, I hate Christianity too, but Christian extremists never flew planes in the buildings. Dude, you have the white like understanding of Sharia in the most like Al-Qaeda version of it here in the United States of America right now, and you still think it's the Muslims that are fucking responsible for extremism in this country. You're a fucking delusional moron. Okay? They say that, you clown. They don't believe Lamau. The guys in the plains actually believed. Fundamentalist Islam is an ever-present danger to your existence in the United States of America in 2025. You can be convinced of anything, okay? You can literally be convinced of anything, especially in this conversation, when we're having a conversation about myself and my associations with Zohran Mamdani. Do you think me or Zohran are in any way, shape, or form fundamentalist Muslims? Are you fucking stupid? Do you think that we're Salafists? I don't think that. Just don't compare them. It's embarrassing. No, what's embarrassing is your argument in 2025 that holds no fucking water. 90% of all instances of domestic terror since 9/11 have always been conducted by far-right anti-government extremists, many of which actually present themselves as Christian nationalists, as a matter of fact, or neo-Nazis. So the idea that this is actually a real significant threat to American existence shows that you don't actually have any aptitude in statistical analysis and are simply operating off of your fucking feelings. That's it. That's literally it. And it's something that was so stupid even after 2001. Present themselves, yes, they don't believe in shit though, not as dangerous. I am talking about the most dangerous ideology from your perspective, okay, from your existence. It is neo-Nazis. It is white nationalists. It's white supremacists. Whether they are real believers of Christianity or not doesn't fucking change that, okay? If Muhammad Atta was caught drinking alcohol before he did 9/11, would that change the dynamic from your perspective? No, you just assume this is a visible aspect of Islam. It's so funny to say this right now, by the way, when the evangelical Zionist Christians are attached to the fucking ass cheeks of Israel, which is also presenting a ethno-religious supremacist state doing a fucking genocide. And the evangelical Christian Zionists here in the United States of America are literally permanently on board with this. What are you saying? Your perspective on this issue is not as decent or as calculated or as analytical as you think it is, okay? You're just trying to present your fears, unsubstantiated fears, as though it's like a reasonable position. It's not. And it's also not a new position. It's one that I've heard a million times over. None of them would blow themselves up, Lamau. You are a fucking moron. What are you talking about? What do you mean none of themselves would blow themselves up? They have blown themselves up. What the fuck are you talking about? Is it simply the act of blowing yourself up that is the, oh my God, Zohran Mamdani's dad literally wrote about this. Mahmoud Mamdani wrote specifically about the act of martyrdom and why it is orientalized by dumb fuck Westerners who cannot comprehend that, like, this is not a unique version, that every military member that takes a weapon and goes and invades another country is risking their lives just the same. And many of them have died. 12,000 American service members died in the process at the behest of America's profits, okay? America's super profits and America's endless dominance all around the world. But the people, from their perspective, it was all the same. They were also making the same calculations. They were putting their fucking lives on the line. You are a fucking moron if you think that there's any difference, okay? There is none. He literally wrote about it, ironically enough. But you were just hyper-focusing on the fact that, oh, they blew themselves up. So I guess it's fine if someone just rides a fucking car into a crowd of people because he didn't blow himself up. It's a different type of terrorism. Is that what you're saying? Or if the person driving that car is Muslim, do you make a different calculation there as opposed to a person doing that is a white supremacist Christian nationalist? When a white supremacist Christian nationalist goes into a fucking school, shoots a bunch of children, and then kills themselves or engages in suicide by cop, I guess that's different because they're Christian, they're white. Ultimately, it comes back to that same fundamental difference. I'm done arguing on this issue, okay? If you can't comprehend it at this point, you're unfortunately too dense. Let's get to CBS News, New York. Siena Research New York Times poll of New York City voters. 39%, including 66% of young voters, say Mamdani is best addressed the Israeli-Palestinian conflict during the campaign. Only 17% say the same about Cuomo. Shocking. Here's another take on that front, by the way. New York City voters, including a solid majority of young voters who powered Zohran Mamdani's Democratic primary win, say The strident Israel critic offered the best approach to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict during the campaign. The New York Times Siena College survey of 1,284 registered voters conducted September 2nd through September 18th found that 39% of all respondents and 66% of those aged 18 to 29 said Mamdani best addressed the conflict in the Middle East. Oh my God. It feels like it feels like not backing away. It feels like not backing away from your position on Israel, a clear black and white issue on Israel's genocide, yielded the most benefits. Yeah, we got the sniper story as well. Don't worry, I'm going to cover that as well. You're going to see a lot of these Islamophobes because their cockroach daddy hasn't streamed over a week. I know. I mean, it's nothing new to me. Come on, man. I've been doing this. I've been doing this for a long ass fucking time. It's not new.
To go until Election Day, new polling has business leaders and candidates scrambling to make their mark on the New York City mayor's race while they still have time. The latest New York Times Siena College poll shows Queens Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani is widening his lead in the current four-man race for mayor. The poll found 46% of likely voters are planning to choose the Democratic nominee, 24% for former Governor Andrew Cuomo, 15% for Republican Curtis Sliwa, and 9% for Mayor Eric Adams. 5% of respondents say they're undecided. But that same polling shows a much tighter race if Mamdani and former Governor Cuomo were to face off head-to-head. 48% Mamdani and 44% Cuomo. Meanwhile, a group of business leaders met with the former governor in Midtown today to back his candidacy.
I care about this city. I grew up in the city, and I think that he is the right guy to lead the city.
We need a plan for Andrew to become the mayor of New York City. It's the most vital issue in New York City today.
Zohran Mamdani, when you hear that name, what comes to mind?
I cringe. Absolutely cringe.
Mayor Adams says he's also meeting with prominent business leaders who back his candidacy.
Well, right now, the concern is...
Yeah, you got prominent business leaders backing Adams. You got business leaders and Donald Trump backing Cuomo. And then you got the people backing Zohran. Now, the problem for these guys is there's a lot more people than there are businesses and business executives. What a lot of these guys don't understand is that your business executive decisions might not necessarily translate to your rank and file workers either. Okay. This is even like finance. Okay. This extends even to fucking finance. Now, obviously, that's the most like right-wing field I could think of. But even then, there are still people that work at these fucking financial offices, for example, that are suffering, that can't pay their fucking rent. And they're going, yeah, I'm going to vote for this guy. It's that simple. Even fucking finance bros are having a hard time paying their rent. So they're going to go for the guy who says, I'm going to make rents cheaper.
What the Democratic primary winner would do to the city. So I don't blame them for sitting down with Andrew and whomever else. We need to make sure that this city does not go into a state where decriminalizing prostitution.
Mamdani's spokesperson responded by saying, quote, New York City is not for sale. The backroom scheming from Donald Trump and the billionaire class is backfiring, as New Yorkers see Zohran Mamdani as the only candidate who will fight to make the most expensive city in the country more affordable. We did reach out to Andrew Cuomo for his reaction to the latest polling, but have not yet heard back. Meanwhile, today, the Board of Elections will meet after rejecting a request by Jim Walden to remove his name from the mayoral ballot. The board said Walden's application was submitted too late. He says keeping his name on the ballot will only confuse voters. Walden suspended his campaign last Tuesday and urged the other candidates to unite to defeat Mamdani.
Andrew Cuomo has a mile-long career filled to the brim with unimaginable controversy, okay? And he is an objectively weak candidate that staked his reputation on this race, a much smaller race than one he has won in the past, and lost. It's not going to happen. No matter how hard Trump tries to boost his chances.